So long, Bowser.
Killing Floor 2 is great. It's like Killing Floor 1, but with more killing. I mean, it has more kills per square foot of floor. It's just better. If you want totally senseless violence that would get you put on an FBI watch list back in the mid-90s, Killing Floor 2 is the game for you. It's a way of life. And in this video, I'm hoping to go over just some of the things that makes this game so good. Tripwire Interactive began working on Killing Floor 2 immediately after the release of Red Orchestra 2, which is also a fantastic game that you should check out if you haven't played it yet. Despite Killing Floor 2 now approaching its 7th birthday, there are still relatively frequent updates, and these updates are being handled by Saber Interactive. Killing Floor 2, in my opinion, it looks fantastic, so it was really my surprise when I learned that this whole game is being run on the Unreal Engine 3. Tripwire initially entertained the idea of using Unreal Engine 4, but they wanted Killing Floor 2 to run on lower end PCs, and they would also have to scrap all the work they had done already. So basically, Unreal Engine 3 was the way to go for Tripwire. Killing Floor 2's graphical fidelity when compared to Killing Floor 1, I mean, it's night and day. Everything just looks better. In fact, Killing Floor 2 was the first game that Tripwire Interactive used motion capture for. Motion capture just allows for things to look that much better, and there's also now the MEAT system, the MEAT system, which stands for Massive Evisceration and Trauma. It's a very charming name, I know. The MEAT system essentially just makes things cooler, makes things more brutal. I love it. Killing Floor 1 only had 5 dismemberment variations, whereas Killing Floor 2 is a whopping 22 different dismemberment variations. And bloodstains are now permanent, so you can paint the ceiling and the walls and the ground a nice, beautiful, sanguine color. All in all, Killing Floor 2 looks quite a bit better than Killing Floor 1, and it looks much better than the original Killing Floor mod for Unreal Tournament 2004, which is where the whole series got its start. Now that I've bored you with all this technical mumbo-jumbo, let's actually get into some of the gameplay elements. We'll begin with the game modes. There are 3 main game modes. There's Survival, Versus Survival, and Endless Mode. Of the 3 game modes, Survival is definitely the one that people flock to the most. Essentially, you just have to survive a certain amount of waves against ever-growing numbers of Zeds, and then you gotta fight a boss at the end. And there's also a Versus Survival game mode. I don't know how it plays though, because nobody ever plays it. That game mode is essentially dead as far as I can see. Endless mode is essentially survival, except there is no winning, there's only death, and you hold out for as long as you possibly can. And while there aren't as many people playing this game as there were on launch, you can still find survival and endless mode games fairly regularly, which is the main reason you should be playing Killing Floor 2 anyway. Killing Floor 2 has a very, very basic gameplay loop. It's just kill Zeds until you can't kill anymore, and I mean, that's what a game like Killing Floor should be. Just kill, kill, kill. Each match starts relatively slowly, where you're armed only with your starting weapons and you're killing smaller amounts of Zeds. But by the end of the game, it's a carnival of carnage. You'll be ending each match with the entire area covered with blood and dismemberment. But just exactly what will you be dismembering? Well, I'm glad you asked. You'll be dismembering Zeds. But you may ask, what exactly are Zeds? Well, they're basically zombies. Actually, they're technically clones, but given the fact that they just want to eat you, yeah, they're kind of zombies. There are three different categories of Zeds, lesser, medium, and large Zeds, but we'll begin by talking about the lesser Zeds. The lesser Zeds, they act as just general cannon fodder. You've got everything from cis to gore fast to slashers. You've got all different kinds of lesser Zeds, and they really just serve to be annoying. They all have their own unique quirks and capabilities, but they're also very low on health, so just shoot them a couple times and they go down. They shouldn't present any real risk to you. The medium Zeds, they present more of an issue. You've got things like husks, sirens, Edars, and yeah, more. You've also got things like gore fiends or elite crawlers and rioters, which only come out on higher difficulties. Medium Zeds will ruin your day if you're not careful. You gotta put a high priority on them, because while they're still not super high in health, they generally deal a lot of damage. Finally, there are the large Zeds, and these are the flesh pounds, quarter pounds, and skrakes, and these guys ruin your day even if you are careful. They have a huge amount of health, they do a ton of damage, and they'll drop you like it's hot. As if those pesky Zeds weren't enough, you also gotta deal with some bosses. And there are 5 different bosses you can fight. You can fight the Patriarch, the Matriarch, Dr. Hans Volter, the Abomination, and King Fleshpound. Each boss has their own unique fighting style, and each one needs to be dispatched kind of differently from each other. For instance, the Patriarch, the Matriarch, and to an extent, Dr. Hans Volter, they rely more on their ranged weapons, whereas the Abomination and the King Fleshpound are much more melee focused, so you gotta stay away from them. It's up to you to personally learn their patterns and their little idiosyncrasies, and learn how to take them out more efficiently. And while the Zeds might be getting stronger, well, so are you. You earned a currency called Dosh for every single kill you get and for every round you complete. Dosh can be used to purchase armor, new weapons, or upgrade existing weapons, and it adds a huge variety to each game that you play. So for example, let's say that you're the support class. Well, that Dosh gives you a lot of different choices that you can follow. Do you sacrifice some of it to buy armor, or do you buy a new weapon instead? And then, what weapon do you buy if you do decide to get a new weapon? Do you go with weapons that are better at taking out large Zeds, or do you go with weapons that take out more lesser Zeds but aren't quite as good at the large Zeds? The Dosh system allows for a different playthrough every single match, and it's easily one of the best parts of Killing Floor 2. And speaking of variation, Killing Floor 2 has 10 unique perks that all offer up totally different playstyles. First off, we have the Berserker. The Berserker is essentially the tank of Killing Floor 2. He's equipped primarily with melee weapons, and he's got some of the highest damage resistance and health, so he can just run in there and just, beat the crap out of people. This makes him the prime candidate for heading headlong into carnage, and just distracting Zeds from the rest of the team. Next we have the Commando, who is just a well-balanced range class. He primarily uses assault rifles, and he can take out lesser Zeds, medium Zeds, and large Zeds without necessarily excelling in one of those. The support might be my favorite class in the game. I mean, they're great at supporting people. They're great at it. And they also have some cool shotguns. So the shotguns, they can take out Zeds at close range very well. The support can also give ammo to other people. They can hold more equipment than anyone else. And they also weld and repair doors better than any other class, so support's kind of amazing in this game. While support's amazing, the field medic might be even more amazing. They have arguably the lowest damage output, but they also keep the team alive. I mean, they're field medics, they should be keeping them alive, and their healing grenades are some of the best grenades in the game. They heal teammates while also damaging Zeds, so treat your medics nicely, they deserve it. The Demolitionist is the explosive specialist, and because he has limited amounts of ammo and the ammo is very expensive, he's best at taking out the large Zeds primarily. Demolitionists can also supply their teammates with grenades, so in this case they're kind of like a more boomy, explosive version of the support class. The Firebug is awesome. They don't supply any ammo, they don't supply grenades, they don't heal, they just light things on fire. It's pretty cool. While the Firebug's a little bit weak at lower levels, once you've leveled it up, it becomes arguably the best class in the entire game at taking out lesser Zeds, and holding choke points is just a breeze with the Firebug. Gunslingers are masters of two things, and that's running around really fast and blasting zombies in the face with pistols. While pistols might be sidearms in a lot of games, they're actual hand cannons in Killing Floor 2. I mean, the Desert Eagle is a power trip that needs to be experienced. And gunslingers are great at running around the arena, just finding any medium and large Zeds they see, just blasting them in their stupid face.
Stupid face.
The sharpshooter is the closest thing to a sniper in Killing Floor 2, and they tend to stay towards the back and take out the medium and larger Zeds from a safe distance. They're arguably the most underrated class in the entire game, and in my opinion they become infinitely more fun once you unlock the perk ability that lets you reload weapons quickly. It's almost always a great time whenever you're playing sharpshooter in my opinion. SWAT class is one of my absolute favorite perks. While I was absent from Killing Floor 1, it shares a lot of similarities with Commando in that they favor mostly ranged automatic weapons. Where they differ, however, is in what automatic weapons they prefer. While the Commando prefers more assault rifles and DMRs, the SWAT loves submachine guns. These submachine guns are absolute bullet hoses, so It makes the swap better at taking out lesser Zeds, but not quite as good at taking out medium and large Zeds as the Commando class. Finally, the last class is the Survivalist, and while he sounds kinda lame on paper, he's actually extremely fun to play in the game. He serves no specific role, he really just serves to fill in the gaps in your team's composition. If I'm not wrong, I believe he can use every single weapon in the entire game, giving him by far the largest arsenal, and you can also greatly change his playstyle based on what perk abilities you have activated at the time. In short, if you want a medic, call up a Survivalist. You want to smash some Zeds in the face and blow them up with Molotovs? Call a Survivalist. You need something blown up? Yeah, call a Survivalist. He can do that too. Killing Floor 2 has some of the absolute best gunplay in any game that I've ever played. While the setting itself in the game is very fantastical and out there, the guns themselves are actually very much rooted in reality with how they feel and how they function. They all have a good amount of kick, which means that when you shoot a Zed, it really feels like you're shooting a Zed. It feels great. And there's nice little intricacies, like the ability to inspect your weapon that you're using, or change its skin, or upgrade it throughout the course of the game. There's a huge variety in the weapons you can choose, from clubs from medieval times for the Berserker, to Winchester rifles for the sharpshooter, or even guns that can heal people in the case of the medic. Nearly every weapon is viable, and in my opinion, the gunplay is what makes Killing Floor 2 just so great. And the characters firing these guns, I can't help but love them. A lot are from continental Europe, which is a nice change of pace because in most games, the voice actors tend to be from either the United States or Britain. It's basically just those two locations. I love the fact that you can be French, you can be German, you can be Swedish, you can be just about anybody in Europe. All the characters talk with each other and they manage to be pretty, pretty funny, compared to a lot of modern game dialogue that's super cringe. You can customize each character quite a bit, with each getting 3 customization slots, and personally I've fallen in love with my Jaegerhorn. He's the big Swedish meatball I always wanted as a friend and I never got. Killing Floor 2's difficulty is just fantastically balanced in my opinion. There are 4 difficulty modes. There's normal, hard, suicidal, and hell on earth. Each difficulty ramps up the number of Zeds, the unique types of Zeds, and how each of those Zeds actually attacks and functions. In general, normal is a great difficulty for getting used to the game. Hard is pretty balanced actually, and it provides a decent challenge. Suicidal is quite difficult, expect to die, expect to lose on occasion, and Hell on Earth is absolutely insane. You should only play it if you're extremely good at the game. Because perks get stronger the longer you play, it's good to kind of base the difficulty you're playing on around the level of your perks. For instance, when you're just starting the game, you should probably be playing on normal until all your perks are at least around level 5 to 10-ish, and then you can move on to hard and upwards, because those difficulties are going to be insane if you're just starting the game. And as you level your perks, you're naturally going to get better at the game. I mean, you're playing it more, so the higher difficulties just become more enjoyable overall. Finally, I'd just like to say that the soundtrack absolutely slams. Killing Floor 2 is up there really with Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal when it comes to just knuckle dragging heavy riffs. Almost all the songs are being performed by actual different bands, and their influence comes from death metal, metalcore, thrash metal, and playing Killing Floor 2 without the music on, it's kind of sacrilegious. Killing Floor 2 is great. In some ways, it's almost a masterpiece when it comes to just evisceration capabilities. If you don't have Killing Floor 2, I'd highly recommend getting it the next time that it's on sale. It's kind of pushing its age a little bit at this point, but there are still games going on and there are still updates coming. And if you have Killing Floor 2, I mean, why not just jump in and play a few games, have a good time? Well, from me to you, that is all there is today, so I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Hey, you, don't be a fool. Did you know that a salty Bendro will show that you are super cool? Hey, you, a like will show you rule. It's totally free and guarantee your help will be my fuel.